I just ran through the course. So after I did that, I was able to put that on my LinkedIn account. And just from putting it on my LinkedIn account, I was then approached by a small business to work with them just because they saw I had that GovClose certification, and I was very quickly able to take the knowledge I gained from that course and apply it to a paid internship position.
So technically you have 2 clients now, is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, the course is paying for itself every month.
I am seeing younger and younger individuals learn government contracting and get results. We're going to meet a sophomore in college who, once she went through the GovClose training program, she was offered an aerospace defense job as a paid intern as a sophomore in college. We're going to meet another young 20s male Jack started a consulting business and has multiple clients, and he's helping them sell to the government. Government contracting is probably not what everyone aspires to be when they're in high school or college, but it is a hard discipline which very few people understand, that has an immense amount of money behind it, and it can be very exciting depending on who you're working with, like an aerospace defense company, for instance, right? So you can learn this and you can get great results. I want to present these interviews to you to maybe change your mind a little bit about what a government contractor actually looks like, because it's not all old guys like me, and you don't have to have a bunch of master's degrees hanging on your wall if you want to enter this space. We bring on a lot of veterans and federal workers and professionals looking for their second career, but very rarely do we discuss starting your career, right? Starting it from scratch. What if you are in college? Well, this could be a great way to differentiate you from almost everyone else, because no one has this skill set. So we're going to start with Lindsay and hear about her experience working in government contracting. So Lindsay, you went through the GovClose certification program. Why did you go through that?
Well, for 2 reasons. Well, I guess maybe even 3. So I'm around it all the time, as I do work for you. Second reason being, there was a company who approached me about an internship, and I thought that it would definitely benefit me, not just for the one internship, but in the long run. I do think that a lot of funding is coming through the government, so it's kind of nice to know how it works, especially as somebody who is in the College of Business right now. So it kind of gives me another outlet and area to look into, definitely for the future.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. You originally were you were majoring teaching education. What was the major?
Yeah. Secondary education English. So a pretty big change going into business, but it's definitely been worth it. So
my name is Jack, and joined the GovClose certification because I've been wanting to get into the federal market for a while. It's been something that's always been interesting to me. I started building market research tools for government contractors. Somewhere along the line, I found you, started going through your content, and then I'd figure you'd kind of help me speed run the process of learning everything I needed.
Since you've come into the program, first of all, what did you learn in GovClose?
I mean, everything you need to know about government contracting. You know, the thing that really sold me on you is just kind of your honesty, your openness, but above all, it's your career and the fact that you actually know what's going on and how to do it. So from there, I learned the exact process that people like you, program managers, people that are actually putting companies on contract, what they need, what they expect from someone to be able to put them on contract. And that was the biggest learning point. You know, what are the actual steps? What's the paperwork that needs to get signed? How do people on the government side like to be approached? And what's the best way to win?
Well, you're in Tennessee, right? And I remember getting a call from you because you were approached by a military recruiter. And yes. I think that, not the conversation with me, but I think that conversation with the military recruiter had something to do with you changing your major. Why don't you walk us through why you changed your major? And I think this will help people, anyone your age, thinking about college, how much it costs, and then how does that translate into a career? Sometimes we jump into a program without thinking about, hey, am I going to have a job on the other side of this? And how much am I going to get paid? And is it going to be more than working at McDonald's, or, you know what I mean? Or am I going to be on a path that has career progression? So why don't you tell us about that?
A recruiter with the Marines, and they were offering me a bonus for signing on, and basically like free education, things like that. And what really, I think, triggered even the thought of changing my major is the fact that I was even considering going into the military. It's a very respectable career path. I'm not dogging on the career path by any
Mhm.
means, but
Yeah, well, I hope not.
I do think that no, absolutely not. I would never. But I do think that that's very out of character for me. So knowing that I was considering something that was way out of left field, kind of made me think that maybe it was time to really look at all of my options, degree-wise.
Yeah.
And so I kind of took a step back. I had been working with you kind of on and off for a little bit anyways, and I have some other family who are, I guess, in the field of business, you could say. So I decided to kind of dive into that and look into my other options, and I kind of landed on the College of Business. And with that, obviously, talking to you about it in general, you kind of were plugging, the options that I could go along with government or military related jobs. I just knew that by the end of it, I wanted to have a guaranteed position, a reliable position, and a way to provide for myself ultimately in the end. So that was kind of the
Yeah.
process, I guess you could say.
And it's not an easy program. There's digital courses, of course, but we also have the coaching, but we also have big deliverables. Did any of that surprise you, or what did you, or maybe you could describe that to somebody watching that's on the fence? Like, what were you learning as you were having to do some of our assignments?
As far as deliverables, the thing that was the most complicated is really getting a grasp of how the federal market works, right? And working with the government is completely different than any other sale. So really getting a grasp of spending, getting a grasp of where the money's going, how to understand where it's going, where it's coming from, how it's been spent. Just getting a grasp of the entire system is, I don't want to say complicated, but it just takes time. And yeah.
Okay, you're like, yeah. So it does take time for sure. And you did a really good job. I remember going through some of the initial projects. We eventually got you through all of the training. You did the initial assignments and you became certified. And then we moved you from our weekly coaching call that focuses on the training, the government contracting, to the what we call the war room, right? And that's building your consulting business, reaching out to clients. Can you describe, the type of people that are in the program that you're meeting with on a weekly basis, how they might have helped, and how you're helping them?
Yeah, so the best part of this whole program is that even though it's kind of hard to wrap your head around certain things when it comes to the government, is from the very beginning, you have a community that is there to help you. You have all the videos that are going to show you how to do things, but we also have just the weekly coaching calls, which is access to you, but also access to all the other 200 plus people on the program, to like just workshops like, hey, how do we do this? How do we do that? Specific questions regarding, certain opportunities. If there is someone in your industry that might be able to help with so if you're there to become a consultant, or if you're there to, get contracts for your business, if you can find teaming partners, you can find people to help you with CMMC, with cybersecurity certifications. It's really important that not only are you getting the proper training, but you also have that community to hold your hand the entire time, and not necessarily hold your hand, but just assist you along the way, because things can be complicated, but it's a great resource to have. And then once we're able to, move forward to the second meeting, now it's the war room. We're actually talking shop. We're seeing how to get things rolling.
You've been doing some work for us, and then you, as a result of that, you were doing some marketing, and then we put you through GovClose, so you'd have a better understanding of what was going on. Now, my understanding was you went through the program, and then I think or it was either after you went through the program or once we posted that you were working with us, you were approached pretty quickly by an aerospace defense company, right? And I remember they reached out to me too. Was that after you went through the certification, or was it before?
I believe I was nearing the end of the certification.
Okay.
I believe that was one of the questions they asked me in the interview was, how far along are you in the program? That kind of deal. They knew it was credible. So they followed you and they saw what you were doing with your company. And they really, I guess you could say, kind of like in a way sought after that, because they wanted somebody who had been around the language and kind of just around the environment, I guess you could say.
Yeah, it must have been something within your LinkedIn profile must have reflected that you were working with us, or that you had done the program or were in it. Because I remember really fast after that initial, just putting on your profile that you had that, all of a sudden people were approaching you, and again, they're reaching out to us too, which to me is interesting because it's a differentiator for adults, never mind a college student. Now, I really hadn't even considered this, right? But it's certainly set you up for a paid internship, where you got to learn a little bit about how companies go after these federal contracts, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What did you
I
learn?
think
What did you learn? What was eye-opening about that? Did they just know? Did you walk in and they just knew exactly what to do? How did that look from your point of view?
so. I would like to preface by saying I'm a very hands-on learner, and I do think through the program there are a lot of examples provided. But for me, like as soon as you're in that area, you're in that field, you're actually witnessing the email exchanges and those types of things. It kind of made everything click into line, which was really nice because I had all that information from you, your program,
Hmm.
people within the program as well. But again, like I said, as soon as it's all laid out in front of you, it kind of just like it's like the magic light bulb moment of like, oh wait, I actually know what this is, and I think I
Right.
can figure this out.
Right. And I have little inside knowledge because I remember them calling and talking to me and, talking about what their approach was to federal contracting. A lot of adults are nervous about working with a company in the government contracting space because they assume that the company, even if they've had, a couple of government contracts, they assume that company it's a well-oiled machine. They think that company knows everything about government contracting. They know exactly what they're doing, and they might be a little nervous to start working there. But I would say 99.9% of the time, what actually happens is they go to that company and they realize that company has almost no idea what I'm not saying the one you worked for, but I am saying that, it's eye-opening for a lot of people when they realize, hey, these companies are just trying to see what works. Sometimes they're just throwing stuff against the wall. They're just trying to make it work. They're trying to understand the process, and they don't understand completely, and they're able to provide a lot of value. What was your experience as far as that's concerned?
We still had to work and develop a plan for each. And with that knowledge, it's easy to kind of go into a job or a position like working with companies who are trying to work with the government, because you have to go in with the understanding that you're all figuring it out together. Typically, each office you're working with or each person you're communicating with, they all have a different way of going about it. Typically, not very often, but for the most part, that I've noticed while working with them. So I don't know, this might not be the right word to describe it, but it's kind of fun because you're working with these companies and you're all putting your brains together to try and figure out the best approach. We need somebody to present different approaches or understand how we can reorganize our current approach, working with the team as a whole.
How long you been in GovClose now?
Close to a year.
Close to a year. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're coming up on 1 year. And now that you've done it, do you think, and you have clients, is this something you think you're going to stick with and scale? Is it something that you're just going to put on your resume and move on to something else? How do you think this is going to apply? Because you're a young man in his 20s, right? Where are you going from here?
Well, I'm absolutely sticking to it, I'm glad I'm working with some great companies, so I plan on growing with them. There's a lot of people from the program that, are starting up too. There are people who have, storied careers in their own industry who, we're able to help with and, just grow together. This is my retirement plan essentially. Go with the companies that I have, find more companies, just get deals eventually, get my own company, get my own contracts, but that's down the line.
All right. Well, you do have your own company. This could be your full time. It could be contracts with the government. There's so many different angles that you could take, and we have no idea how the story is going to unfold, except that you're already successful at a young age, and that success is just going to grow over time. So, Jack, thanks for being in the program, and thanks for being on this video.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Any parting words, Jack?
Join the program.
I did not pay him to say that. Thanks for that.